Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I want to talk about the Bitcoin mining stocks and Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies as well. And then I want to get into my trading activity for the day. So if you want to see if I made or lost any money today trading, make sure you stick around all the way to the end. But it's been roughly about 3 weeks or so since I've done an update on actually my position CleanSpark. But I like to go over not only CleanSpark, but some of the other Bitcoin miners, because those ones are also very fun to trade. A lot of volatility in these things. And then, of course, you got to look at Bitcoin and some of the other cryptocurrencies, because that's what all those stocks are predicated on. I mean, mostly on Bitcoin, but they all kind of move together. And sometimes some of the other ones lead Bitcoin. But right here, I have the daily chart of Bitcoin, and I think it was right about here when I did my last video. And I was thinking that Bitcoin might have to grind around a little bit before we got a break, and it looks like this week we are getting that clean break out of that right through that 45,000 level. And man, it looks like this one is probably going to be sustainable at least for a little while. Now, the next area that I think is probably going to be the biggest hurdle for Bitcoin is probably the halfway point on this Fibonacci grid. It's going to be right here around 51,000. We also have this resistance area here as well. And usually after a long sustained move, the 50% retracement area is usually quite difficult to get through. And then you throw in that there's also some other resistance sitting right there. You know, this could be a little bit of a hurdle to get over. And then, of course, you have that 61.8% retracement level sitting right here at this resistance area as well. So Bitcoin is not out of the woods yet, but it looks like it's finally carving out a bottom and starting to round up. And these usually end up being sustainable moves that last for at least a few weeks. But hopefully for Bitcoin, it ends up, taking out the previous high right around 70,000, because that is going to be not only big for Bitcoin, but also those Bitcoin miners as well. And so many of them just seem so undervalued that they could go on some pretty big runs if Bitcoin ends up making a new all-time high. But let's take a look at some of the other ones. One of the other ones I talked about in my other video was Ethereum, and I thought Ethereum was kind of winding up into this triangle consolidation and hoping that it was going to get a breakout to the upside, and that's exactly what we're getting with Ethereum. So this breakout in Ethereum looks pretty healthy. This area right here is what I'm thinking is going to be the toughest level for Ethereum to get over, right around 3,900-ish. So I'm going to be very interested to see how Ethereum does once it makes it up to that level. Another one I talked about in my previous video was Solana, and I thought Solana was actually making a pretty nice moving average convergence divergence buy signal. Now what that means is this moving average convergence divergence, or this MACD indicator right down here, makes a higher low while price is making a lower low. That's usually a pretty decent buying signal. And as we can see, since that signal was made, it kind of pulled back a little bit, but now it is rounding up quite nicely. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Solana also has some follow through to the upside as well. Now this area right here is the one that I think is going to be pretty tough for Solana to get over. And you can see this is also the 200 period simple moving average that is showing up on the chart right here. And that's also in that same area as well. So there's some very significant areas for these cryptocurrencies that are just a little bit above the current price. So these cryptocurrencies are going to be very interesting to watch over the next couple of weeks. And of course, you cannot forget Shiba when we talk about the cryptocurrencies. It looks like Shiba coin is finally starting to get a bid. This thing looks like it's actually been carving out a pretty nice bottom over the last few weeks. So who knows, maybe even Shiba might end up getting going as well. All right, so jumping over to my TC2000 charting software, let's take a look at some of these Bitcoin mining stocks and how nice they are looking at the moment. I'm going to start off with CleanSpark, ticker symbol CLSK, because this is the only one that I currently own any shares of. I like to trade all of these from time to time just because, they have so much volatility and they make some pretty clean patterns. I just think that there's a lot of opportunities in these Bitcoin mining stocks, not only for the long term, potentially if Bitcoin breaks out to an all-time high, but just because there's so much volatility in these. I mean, you can just make some really fantastic gains when just trading these things. But getting into CleanSpark, let me zoom in a little bit. I believe the last time that I did a video on CleanSpark was when it was trading right around 10.5, putting pressure on this resistance area. And I was talking about how I thought it was going to be have to grind around a little bit, but then eventually it should break through it, and it eventually did. And I thought it would run up to this 200 period simple moving average, and that's where it's currently at right now. I thought we were going to get a nice clean break today. When it was trading near the highs of the day, I actually put in an order to sell some covered calls on my CleanSpark shares all the way up here at $20, and I was sitting on the ask at 25 cents on those options, so I've collected $25 for each one of those contracts, and you can see how far away from the money $20 is. That it only had a delta of about 10 when I put that order in, so it only had about a 10% chance of making it to this level in the next 17 days. That's when those contracts expire. So I love selling covered calls on some of my long-term holdings way out of the money, because it's usually free money, and especially with CleanSpark, there's so much volatility. I don't think there's any other stock that I own that I could sell this far out of the money, at least that I own currently, and collect this kind of a premium. But unfortunately, they did not get filled. Hopefully we have an update tomorrow, and I can get filled on those options. But I'm actually kind of surprised that CleanSpark is selling off, because Bitcoin is still near the highs of the days, or at least the last time I checked. But some of these Bitcoin mining stocks are selling off a little bit. But I am thinking it's probably going to be temporary, especially with CleanSpark. CleanSpark has been so strong, and I figured there was going to be some resistance at this 200 period simple moving average. But it's looking like it's probably going to end up pushing through it. But let's take a look at some of the other ones. Let's take a look at Marathon Digital. Ticker symbol MARA. We can see basically the same thing. Mara has been grinding around sideways, kind of bouncing between 25 and 20, but now it has moved above that 50 period simple moving average and is riding up that 8 period exponential moving average. So it looks like Mara has a date with that 200 period simple moving average right around 35.50. So I think Mara is definitely going to be hitting that in the next couple of days, maybe a couple of weeks at the most. Might have to grind around a little bit, but I would expect Mara to continue moving higher. A lot of these Bitcoin mining stocks, they end up staying in these uptrends for quite a while. These uptrends and downtrends are usually pretty clean. But taking a look at Riot Blockchain, you can see the same thing. Nice little grind around period right around 14, and then boom, right above that 8 period exponential moving average. Now we do have this resistance area that is below the 200 period simple moving average for Riot Blockchain, but I do think it's going to end up breaking through that. If it does get up into this area right here, call it about 25-ish, and starts to roll over a little bit, I'm going to look to probably buy some put options on Riot, because I would expect it to pull back down to this white line, this 8 period exponential moving average. And you also have this support area right here if it does pull back to that area. So that is a pretty decent trade setting up for Riot Blockchain. That's one that I'm watching closely. Another one that I like is HUT Mining. You see the same exact thing. When these things get in these trends and they get above the 8 period exponential moving average, or when they get below it, they usually tend to ride it, for a couple of days to a few weeks at least. I mean, that's why these things are just so nice to trade in these trends, because they can really follow it for a long time. But I would expect HUT Mining to also eventually get all the way up here to that 200 period simple moving average. You also have some other resistance in that area. So a lot of these stocks don't have a whole heck of a lot much further to go to the upside before they start running into some heavy resistance. But like I said, these things are just really great to trade. There's a lot of opportunities in these, so I'll be watching these when they get up to these levels to potentially take a trade to the downside if they start showing some weakness. And the other one that I really like is Bitfarms. I know there's other Bitcoin miners, but these are the ones that I watch the closest. But you can see nice rounded bottom in Bitfarms. This one I probably like the best that isn't named CleanSpark anyway. But out of all the ones that I went over, I think I really like the way Bitfarms is setting up for a potential swing trade higher. All right, so let's jump into my trading activity for the day. I only made one trade today, and that was in HYMC. But before I get into this, please remember, not a financial advisor. This is just the results of my trading activity. I'm not telling you guys how to trade. This is not financial advice, so please make all of your own buying and selling decisions. With all that being said, I actually do have a Patreon group. The link is down there in the description. It's $9.99 a month. So if you'd like to join our small trading group, The link is down there. I like to put out a pre-market watch list video before every trading day, just to show you the kind of day trades like these that I am watching, and if I see anything else significant going on in the market. I'm also in the Discord every single day, so if you guys would like to join a Patreon group, a small Patreon group where we all kind of talk to each other every single day, the link is down there. But no pressure to do that. Simply liking the video is more than enough. But let's get into this trade, and actually looking at this chart pattern right here. This is the daily chart, but this is kind of the setup that I like to trade on the minute chart. I wait for the stock if they gap up to kind of pull back and make a nice little rounded bottom, and then once it makes a clear cut ceiling like HYMC did on the daily chart, I wait for it to break above that ceiling and just try to ride it for about 5 to 10% or so. Now, the lower price stock, I usually let them try to run a little bit longer than I do a higher price stock, just because, it doesn't take a whole heck of a lot of movement for one of these low price stocks to move 10%. But you have to remember, that's a double-edged sword. If it doesn't take a whole heck of a lot of movement to go up 10% for you, it doesn't take a whole heck of a lot to go 10% against you. So you have to keep that in mind. But let's go to the minute chart. I'll show you how this one's set up. Let me back this thing up. All right, well, here was the gap up in HYMC, kind of made a little bit of a pullback, started to find some support just above that 8-period exponential moving average. I saw this little ceiling right here that I already have drawn on the chart, right around $1.65. I put in my order at $1.66 to buy. It actually executed at $1.67, so it wasn't the worst execution in the world. It wasn't the best, but I've had much worse than that. I'll take 1 penny over. And then I ended up selling at $1.79, so I made right around 7% on this trade. As we can see, it went up a little bit higher, kind of pulled back, and has been melting up ever since. Now, most of the time when I make a trade like this, they kind of end up fading down, but this one just continued to melt up, so this is not typical. That's why I just like to try to make about 5 to 10% in the first half hour or so. And besides, this strategy that I'm using, it's just to try to earn a little income every single day. If the stock continues to melt up or rolls over, that's totally irrelevant. It doesn't matter to me. But if you see a stock like this, it just continues to scream higher. It is not typical. So if you try to hold on to these every single time, I'm telling you, it's probably not going to work out. So. But that's how this trade ended up working for me. Let me go back to the daily chart. And actually, before I end out the video, let me jump over to AMC. I was talking about those moving average convergence divergence buy signals when I was talking about Solana earlier. AMC made actually a pretty nice one. I don't watch AMC super closely. Wish I was watching it closer so I could have caught this one, but let me pull up the MACD indicator right here. We can see that the indicator made a higher low, but price made a lower low. Now that is kind of like the get ready signal. I don't buy every time I see that, because a lot of these will just kind of end up failing and continuing lower, because after all, this is a downtrend here. You have to kind of wait for the next signal, and that next signal for me is the move above this white line, above that 8-period exponential moving average. Once you get that, it seems like more often than not, you'll get some follow through to the upside, and we can see you're getting a pretty nice move today in AMC. So this was a beautiful moving average convergence divergence, positive divergence, I should say, setup. But unfortunately, I missed on missed trading this one. But I just wanted to show you guys what a clean one looks like before I ended the video, in case you guys hadn't seen one before. But that's all I got for this video. If you guys have any questions, or if you know of any stocks making good setups, make sure you leave it for me down there in the comments section. I appreciate any stocks you guys give me a heads up on. I'm going to end it right there. Thank you so much for watching my video all the way to the end. And until next time, take care, everybody.